Good evening, dairy farmer friends. In the past few weeks, I have been traveling around and visiting farms that have started up construction on dairy farming, housing, and sheds and facilities on farms. And I was uh, disappointed with the lack of correct information uh, in the field and farmers investing a lot of money in things that would absolutely not profit them and not be good for their animals. So I thought of sharing a few thoughts. Towards the end of this, I will share the topics I will be continuing with. As the first part, I would like every one of us to understand that animals that can exercise their natural species specific movements and behavior patterns as far as possible are less likely to be stressed or injured and will therefore be more productive. The practical design of an animal production system and any buildings involved depend on many other factors such as feeding, management, thermal environment, heat or heat stress, construction, and the cost of construction, the economics of the whole affair. Each of these can be equally or even more important. However, it's all about the cow. When you make a dairy farm, when you build a dairy farm, you must understand that the cow does not care really about the shed that you construct, even if it's a Taj Mahal. She cares about the shade you provide, not the shed. The comfort you provide, the security, the safety, and the ventilation, etc. So, when you're developing a shed or developing a facility for housing dairy cows and buffaloes, please try to understand that what their species specific requirements are. The lifespan of any building is usually 5 to 15 years, which makes it clear that even small increase in production or decrease in the frequency of injury, decrease in disease, decreasing feed losses, decrease in requirement of labor or dependence on labor for manual handling, etc., will all repay you if you make the right kind of design. So it make it's important to understand that a bad facility, a poorly designed farm will cost as much as a well designed farm. So they cost the same, but planning, understanding, designing it is very important. So we will talk about these things more specifically. When you look at the requirements of a dairy cow or a buffalo, uh, what are the aspects that have an influence on production? You can divide it into two main areas: the husbandry and genetics. The husbandry and genetics are equally, or genetics is more important than husbandry and and management. So if you look at husbandry or management, you can say that it can be divided into the nutritional part and it can be divided into the housing or the environment part. Nutrition, of course, the availability of feed and water, the quality of it, the balancing of the nutrients in the feed, uh, all impact production directly. Similarly, the environment, the microenvironment in which the animal lives all her life uh, is important. For example, if there are sharp uh, endings which constantly hurt the animal, if there are hard floors which cause hock injuries and teeth injuries, if there is overcrowding, So all this has a direct or an indirect influence on production. So if you look at the physical aspects of it, things like temperature, radiation, humidity, precipitation or humidity, air movement, ventilation, all this have a direct impact on production. A slight change in any of these parameters impacts production. Similarly, while designing it, if you don't provide specific space for each animal in different stages of its life cycle, it's going to influence the production. It's going to influence directly the growth of the animal and things like that. So all in all, today this time we will dwell a bit on genetics, and then we will go on to the other topics. So, so to say, if you have a cow who produces 10,000 liters of milk in a lactation of say about 300 days, you could ensure that 2000 is produced based on uh, the quality of nutrition that you provide, good forage, good concentrates. Another 2000 you could ensure by having good management, good climate, good environment, good temperature regulation, enough, good comfortable bedding, and things like that. However, the rest of the 60% of the 6,000 or 6,000 kgs of that production totally depends upon the genetics of the animal. So it's very important to understand to get in good genetics that have the capacity to produce. Otherwise, all your hard work goes down the drain if the animal does not have the genetic potential to go above a certain production. So that brings us to the question, what type of animal is best for my farm? If you look at different parts of India, you have varied climates. I mean, it's not just one type. A certain climate in Punjab, you have certain climate in the northeast, in the south, in the coastal area, you have a certain different type of hot and humid climate. What is the best animal? Universally, everyone would say that the Holstein and the Jerseys are the best suited for any environment. I tend to disagree because I think the first distinction that has to be made is what type of management system are you talking about? If you are looking at a high intensity, high input, high output management system, then the Holstein is more suitable for those conditions. The Jerseys are more suitable for those conditions. But again, whatever your environment, that environment has to be modified to suit the cow. Whereas if you look at a low input, low output system where you have animals that are fed on less concentrates on high fiber diets, who are not housed in environment controlled setups, you need a different type of animal. Of course, your production in terms of the number of liters would be different. But is productivity going to be measured just by the quantity of milk in the can, or is it going to be a trade-off between different parameters? If you look at buffaloes, buffaloes have evolved in the Indian subcontinent for centuries. And these animals, although they are not as intolerant as dairy cows or cattle, they have their own strategy to cope up with extreme environments, and they wallow. They That's why they are called as water buffaloes, and they help in they have a good thermoregulation system based on their wallowing behavior. So it's very important to see what kind of animals would suit. What is your strategy? What do you have a market for? Do you have a market for cow milk? Do you have a market for indigenous cow milk like Gir or Sahiwal milk, A2 milk, so to say, which I don't completely agree with all the ideas of A2. But these animals are sturdy and are able to survive under these conditions. So depending on your market, you should decide on this depending on your location, you should decide on the species and the breed, and then of course the market for your produce is very important. Look at what the Brazilians did. They took gear from India, they crossed a Holstein with a gear, or a gear with a Holstein, and then back crossed it with a gear, and then back crossed it with a Holstein, and then crossed with 62%, 62.5% were crossed with each other, and progeny tested bulls of 62.5% blood levels were established, and those bulls were then used to produce a stable kind of 62.5% animal, and that is what is called as a Girolando. They bred the Indian cattle, keeping heat tolerance, disease resistance characters intact, improved production and fertility by selection. A so-called synthetic stable crossbred with similar traits were evolved out of this. However, this can never be possible without data. Good data, good good records is the only way. Without records, it is indiscriminate breeding and it is a disaster. And that's where we have come short in so many years. At least now, the government should invest in data and recording systems so that we can have data of animals and improve productivity. Here's an example of Gir Orlando twins. Some more pictures of Gir Orlando cows. Yeah, I've been there in Belo Horizonte myself. I've seen these animals. They are beautiful animals, very tolerant to hot and humid conditions, able to withstand high fiber diets, low concentrate diets, and produce fairly good volumes of milk, around 4,000 to 5,000 in a lactation, which is very good. And of course, they have a higher fat and higher quantity of SNF or total solids in their milk as well. Here's another picture. They have used progeny tested bulls like this bull called Navajo, whose mother's yield or dam's yield was about 10,000 kilos in 300 days. 90% of his daughters are uh, black ear cows. You see the PTA, the predicted transmitting ability for milk is 97% with an 80% repeatability. The PTA for fat is 3 point. He is an improver for both milk and fat, and good in reproduction also. So this is the way to go in India, and unfortunately we don't see these kind of bulls yet, but I think we are on the way. With very soon we would be going in that direction. I've had the good fortune of milking this buffalo called Olga in Italy, in Caserta. She yielded 6,000, almost 5,962 liters in 270 days. Champion buffalo. And we have such buffaloes in India also. We need to pick, selectively breed these animals for high production and other traits, productive and reproductive traits as well. So, in the coming sessions, I intend to cover the following topics: considering heat stress in housing, very important aspect, understanding what heat stress is and the impact of heat stress. What's the How do you select a site for a dairy farm construction? What should be the direction of of my barn? Should be east, west, or north, south? The importance of ventilation, space requirements for cows and buffaloes, milking, different types of milking systems, different types of milking arrangements, How do you select the right size for your milking parlor and the logics behind it? You can today you have robotic milking. You can almost have all kinds of bells and whistles on your milking parlor, but can you afford it? Do you really need it? All these questions need to be asked. Same thing with the feeding and feed handling solutions, manure and manure handling solution. Planning the main cattle barns are also very important. What are the space requirements of the animals? Uh, and Calf housing. Calf housing is also a very important part of because today's calf is tomorrow's cow. Planning the facilities around the dairy farm, like feed storage, silage storage, sick animal sheds, and things like that. So, in the coming days, I intend to share as much as I know and as much as I can. To tell you a little bit about myself, I've been in the dairy industry for over 35 years now. I started my career as an AI technician. Went on to finish with a PhD in animal nutrition and management from the Swedish Agriculture University Uppsala. Right now, I'm working as vice president for IDMC, a group company of the National Dairy Development Board. And well, I've traveled 26 countries, I've worked in many of them, and have probably seen more than 10,000 farms in my life. So I would like to share this information for the benefit of common farmers in India. Thank you very much, dedicating the series of these talks to the milkman of India, Dr. Varghese Kurian. Thank you.